1968 music review. This is the debut album by Neil Young, and to get it into some perspective, this is a review of that album, and I'm going to read it in its entirety. On his songs for Buffalo Springfield, Neil Young had demonstrated an eclecticism that ranged from the rock of Mr. Soul to the complicated multi-part arrangement of Broken Arrow. On his debut solo album, he continued to work with composer-arranger Jack Nitzsche, with whom he had made Expecting to Fly on the Buffalo Springfield album again. And together the two recorded a restrained effort on which the folk rock instrumentation, most of which was by Young, and overdubbing himself, was augmented by discrete string parts. The country and western elements that had tinged the Springfield sound were also present, notably on the lead-off track The Emperor of Wyoming, which is an instrumental here, and recalled the Springfield song A Child's Claim to Fame. Still unsure of his voice, Young sang in a becalmed high tenor that could be haunting as often as it was listless and whining. He was at his least appealing on the 9.5-minute closing track, The Last Trip to Tulsa, on which he accompanied himself with acoustic guitar, singing an impressionist sort of lyric seemingly derived from Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited. But double tracking and the addition of a female backup chorus improved the singing elsewhere, and on The Loner, the album's most memorable track, Young displayed some of his noisy electric guitar work that would characterise his recordings with Crazy Horse and reminded listeners of his ability to turn a phrase. Still, Neil Young made for an uneven, low-key introduction to Young's solo career, and when released it was a commercial flop, his only album not to make the charts. Several months after the album's release, though, Young remixed it to bring out his vocals more and added some overdubs. The second version replaced the first on the US from then on, though the original mix remained available overseas. On this album, Neil played a variety of instruments, including guitar, piano, synthesizer, harpsichord, pipe organ, and was also involved in the production, as was Ry Cooder, who stepped in with some guitar work. Jack Nitzsche played piano and of course was also involved in the production and arrangements, and on bass Jim Messina from his Buffalo Springfield days played bass, along with Carol Kay, and Earl Palmer and George Grantham shared the drums, and there was a collection of young women on backing vocals, including Mary Clayton, Brenda Holloway, Patrice Holloway, Gloria Richardson-Jones, Sherby Matthews, and Gracia Nitzsche. And there was also some elements of horn on here, but we don't seem to know exactly who played these little snippets of trombone, trumpet, tenor sax, French horn, clarinet, timpani, and the strings. It's produced by David Briggs. The opening cut, as mentioned, the Emperor of Wyoming, is an instrumental, and it's extremely influenced by country music. Reminded me a little bit of Area Code 615, although on the Emperor of Wyoming there are strings added which are somewhat not available on Area Code music, I recall, but it's certainly got that Nashville taste for in its style, and it's a thoroughly pleasant intro, it has to be said. Up next is the single The Loner. This is the track that really caught my ear and made me realise that Neil Young wasn't one of those old fogey country and western guys, albeit from Canada, but it must have been the same as the States. That's how I viewed the music from across the pond at the time. I was, of course, only 15, so apologies to all my American and Canadian friends. But that was how it was. But the Loner, well, now we've got a little bit of rock. And, of course, Young's fuzz guitar really did help catch my ear. And so from that moment, really, I realised this guy's worth checking out. And anyway, there's an extract from the lyric, not that I was into it at the time. He's a perfect stranger, like a cross of himself and a fox. He's a feeling arranger and a changer of the ways he talks. He's the unforeseen danger, the keeper of the key to the locks. Know when you see him, nothing can free him. Step aside, open wide, it's the Loner. And of course there's a second verse which I won't repeat. The guy is 79 now, and I just recently got a digital copy of his latest album with Crazy Horse. He still rocks, man. Check it in at a measly 2 minutes 22 seconds if I could have her tonight. Much more laid back, this one. It's got some neat little guitar jangles which I quite like, and Young is really illustrating that he has got a good singing voice and it doesn't always whine. This is a nice little track, nothing too adventurous about it, but it's certainly got that southern feel, American style southern feel to it. Next track, which is track 4 on side 1, I'll Be Waiting For You. This is once again a sort of rather heavier sort of blues style rock song, and Neil really unearths his really sort of aggressive lead guitar solo technique, which we all know clearly now, but at the time it was, you know, it was quite punk-like, and you can see how he managed to knit very easily into an album he did with Pearl Jam when we were sort of into the that style of music at the time, which was very heavy style. And this turns up actually on a David Bowie album, a cover that David did of this song on Heathen, and Pete Townsend is delivering the solo, and in many ways Townsend and Young have a very similar sort of lead guitar style. They are very aggressive in their use of the fretboard. No delicate sort of pretty solos for them. It's really let's get it on. My Generation live at Leeds. Yeah. Closer on the side 1 is called The Old Laughing Lady. It starts out on a very sort of mellow, orchestral arranged type feel, not too dissimilar from other orchestral efforts that Young's been involved in. We referenced earlier the songs that came out of Buffalo Springfield, Broken Arrow for example. But what's particularly fascinating about this track is 3/4 of the way through it sort of slows, and then the rhythm, gentle rhythm, takes up again, and then there's this fantastic array of female singers singing in a sort of a gospel sort of archipelago fashion for about a minute, and it's very much reflective of the soul that one would expect from these participants, and it's very sort of spontaneous and full of gospel gospel features, those different array of voices. I was going to say black voices, but I don't know if all the members are referred to in the list of personnel, if they are all black, but they're certainly singing like gospel black singers. The Old Laughing Lady did some exploring, and basically most people are agreed that it's a song about addiction, and it explores the stages, really. The beginning, where it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of laughter, and then you come to be dependent on it, and the laughter turns to a haunting feel that you can't escape, and then it becomes destructive and takes on a darker course. In reference to that, one person goes through it. In verse 1, Pretty Peggy is probably a young addict who was overdosed. In verse 2, probably refers to the homeless addict that has lost everything to addiction. And in the third verse, the hopeless addict that will never quit, even though they know it will kill them in the end. And then the final voice, the addictive driver who drives home every night, stumbles upstairs in a stupor and fights with their spouse, eventually shooting or killing them, and not even caring as long as they have their drug of choice. Okay, so Neil off to a pretty depressing start. Side 2 then opens up with this instrumental classical piece, String Quartet from Whiskey Boot Hill. If you weren't told that this was by Neil Young, you would have no clue whatsoever. It could be anything, but it, I suppose, illustrates the fact that his appreciation of this style of music suggests why he gravitated to incorporating strings in a number of his songs, where we can recall, of course, us young addicts, the way he incorporated them into a couple of songs on Harvest. And so this is where it all stemmed from, from Buffalo Springfield as well. So he's very committed to expanding the sound of his material to incorporate strings, orchestral relationships, orchestral arrangements, etc. Next up is Here We Are. Here we are in the years, and I must admit this sort of sped through rather quickly and had virtually no impact on me, and it just combines the sort of strings on top of a very standard, gentle sort of soft rock type song. Nothing really distinctive to say about it. Lyrically, I think Neil wants to contrast rural life with urban life, and the fact that urbanites tend to expect the whole world to revolve around their pace of life, and consider the alternative as somewhat impaired, somewhat subservient, and that one needs to strike a balance in life. Not too sure, but that's my take on it. Okay, up next, what did you do to my life? In contrast to all those years ago, I'm finding that this album is certainly becoming less and less impactful as the tracks slip by. The songs are very much of a same style. The slower, well, I say slower, the lighter songs with restrained guitar, and this basically is another that really comes and then goes, and they're only 2 and a bit minutes. So not a lot to say about the fact that this is a bit MOR. I've Loved Her So Long is the penultimate track, and this is a bit more like it. It's a joint composition written by young Nietzsche and one Ry Cooder. There's a nice piano lulling us into the track, and then shortly we then get another dose of those beautiful harmony vocals that add to perhaps Young's somewhat bland lead vocals, and overall it's got a more going on. That's what I would say. So the finale then, it's a lengthy 9.5 minutes. The last trip to Tulsa. Here it's basically an acoustic singer-songwriter type song, and it's very good, very powerful. The mastery of the chord structure of the acoustic guitar is significant, and it's got a lot of emotion attached to it, and it's certainly one of the standout tracks on this debut. Now, as for regards to its meaning, I'm going to have a quick skip down to, and unfortunately I can't engage in the lyric, but nevertheless a good end to a promising debut, but hardly setting the world on fire is how I'd assess this, although it has to be borne in mind it was 1968.